Hi, everyone. Hey, welcome back to chapter 9. We had a nice break last week with Rupert. It was so nice that he would join us for an extended call. And he really appreciates, these book studies. And I'm grateful that he invited me to host the last couple of books. And he is going to be in the conference again. We just got an affirmation from him this morning that he's going to be in the End of Seeking conference. That's September 16th to the 18th. You might want to put that on your calendar. The conference is free for the live conference, and there will be replays offered for a reasonable cost of $127. But Rupert will be there. We sent the invitations out to about 30 teachers, and we're getting yeses back. We only have 2 no's so far. And just happy to have his yes, because there seemed like he might have a conflict, but because he has a retreat that weekend. But anyway, this is You Are the Happiness You Seek, continuation of our book study with chapter 9, Peace and Happiness is Our Nature. And we are blessed to have another awesome co-host this week, Patty Holly. Hi, Patty.
I'm happy to be here.
Thank you for being here. And for all of you that are familiar, we'll talk about the different the text in the chapters for about 30 minutes, and then we'll start looking at the chat for comments and picking up any questions that you have. And if you feel that you would like to come on live and ask a question, just raise your hand. And we'll go till 1:15. We'll go 15 minutes past what we used to do was 1 hour. Now it's 75 minutes. And peace and happiness is our nature. Patty, I'm going to turn it over to you. Tell me, what is your favorite, or what stands out for you on page 72? Or is it 71?
71. Yeah.
71. Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny they don't put the number on the very first page of each chapter. I've noticed that. I like the subheading, the inherently peaceful nature of awareness. And then out to the side, I wrote, I am nothingness, rest, just pure being, before I come and be the activity of Patty. So it's just, I am prior to the Patty activity.
Yes. Yes.
So I really love that.
Yeah.
And then also just him talking about how the space in the room cannot be agitated by anything. So pure awareness is not agitated by any of the Patty or Bill activity.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not, and in the second paragraph, and just as
let's go back to that, because that's an important kind of noticing. And I don't want to just buzz through it like a jet plane.
I was going to connect it, but that's okay. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, I mean, just to pause and notice that, just to notice the space in the room and have that experience is it's relatable. And so go ahead.
Yeah, the line I wanted to say, it's not made to be peaceful. It already is that. We don't make it peaceful. It is already. And then the activity happens within that inherent peace.
Right. Yes. Yes.
So it doesn't need to be modified by any behavior or anything. You can recognize that peace before, during, and after any activity that you're being.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And then I really underlined, it does not need to be purified, improved, or stilled. And then I wrote, who would do it anyway? Only the sense of the separate self.
Well, and that's okay. No problem there. The sense of the separate self is gonna do things. It's gonna be thinking that it needs to still things. That doesn't need to change either.
Right. It's just a reaction, but you can notice, is it reaction or is it acting from unconditional love? I think that's the key, because if it's reaction, it's a conditioned behavior.
But it doesn't matter. Whatever happens doesn't matter. So if the personal self is now judging itself for a reaction, now we've added another layer to the experience. So the movement and activity that's within the space, it's okay, no problem.
Everything is fine. Everything is. I mean,
Right,
I
right,
just prefer to act consciously rather than unconsciously.
okay.
Yeah. What stood out to you on this page?
Well, I going back to the first paragraph. Um, the whole paragraph is our character. It's a description of our character as awareness. And I like the description that is offered, because as for new people. Oh, and also myself, I'll read something that Rupert writes and I'll go, oh yeah, it's a reminder of a distinction that helped me to realize being. And these characteristics are helpful in um, reminding my understanding, reminding the understanding of what awareness is. And when he describes the distinction of how to know, almost like the litmus test, is that it cannot be disturbed by anything. So it's recognizing that it's unchanging, and it's pure, and whatever happens with images, feelings, sensations, perceptions, they arise, and the space, like presence of awareness within which they appear, is itself not disturbed by them. So uh, it's really giving me my understanding of what my essential self is, and it's untouched by experience. And that's a great reminder. And you can't, and then all of a sudden it's a reminder, and then all of a sudden it's what I think, and what we were talking about before we clicked the button to go live, was the it's like a new neural pathway that's being formed somehow in the bodysuit. Yeah.
It's the recognition that you're the changeless, eternal, immortal reality that's
Yes.
animating all of these human beings and all the activity.
Right.
Prior to the activity, and knowing that you're at peace.
Right. Well, and the new default is what I'm speaking about, because the old conditioned self, Bill Free or Patty, or put your name in front of it, there was an old conditioned, there's like a habitual thing that occurs until it doesn't. And all of a sudden that isn't there anymore. And the new recognition is the new default.
Yes, and that's what I was getting to when I was using the word reaction. It was an automatic reaction, an automatic conditioned behavior, and then you start to recognize that, and it doesn't bother you. It's like, oh, okay, that's conditioning happening. You let it be, and then it can resolve itself.
Yeah.
Back
Yeah.
to love.
Self-resolving. I love that.
Yes.
Yeah, and I guess there's another one. There's another part at the end of the third paragraph that says, starts with whatever the content of experience that arises within it, awareness always remains the same, open, empty, allowing, undisturbed and without resistance. Awareness does not need to be made peaceful through effort, practice, or discipline. It only need be recognized as such. That is, it only need recognize or know itself as such. So it's that noticing, that resting as awareness, noticing once it's almost like a remembering, recognizing I am. And that somehow shifts us to the knowing of our being. Yeah.
I had also highlighted that, and then right after that last sentence you wrote, I wrote the words effortless. The sun simply shines.
Yeah.
We're the light of the world, and then our mind is lit with God's light, and then it's just natural, and we're just acting from unconditional love. So the sun just simply shines. We are the light, and it's effortless to shine through the being that we are. So yeah, I love that. We don't need to do anything. And in fact, I think the more we do and try to perfect ourselves, that just creates resistance, and it creates more of a sense of a separation. Whereas when we know we're not separate from God, it's I am to I am Patty, it's one flow, no resistance. Now we're just being Christed beings here on earth, being the light of the world.
Yeah, that's what I love about the teaching of Rupert and Francis and others that have the same understanding. I learned it from Rupert, the integration, the embodiment aspect, the bringing the two together so that you live in the world as in your personal self-experience. And it's not bad, it's not wrong, and it's also it's something that and it's not a mistake. When I used to think it was a mistake, Ken Wapnick would say, according to the Course in Miracles, this or that, and I have a new clarity around that in that embodiment experience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're collapsing the subject object.
Yes.
And they're one, and they're one. And so there's no more problems.
Yeah.
You're being and flowing in the love and the light that you are.
Yes. Yeah. So before we, let's see, is there anything else on this page, Patty?
Just, he probably repeated it later, but the last sentence is the inherent peace of awareness is not a temporary state of mind.
Yes.
It's like you go beyond the mind to pure being, because the mind is the one that wants to label and put concepts on everything, but the peace is beyond all that labeling and identifying, and you rest in that. So I just wanted to bring that up.
Yeah, it's not a state of mind, and it's not temporary.
Correct. It's permanent. We're the change reality.
Yeah. And this is why learning, understanding, and then experiencing comes into play. And I think Rupert really speaks to this a couple of pages from now when he speaks about the gradual experience that he had. So we're, many of us here are learning, and we're having an understanding, and a direct experience is coming in, helping us to see. And a lot of people say, I'm not getting it, or I slip back, and they think there's something off. I'm saying to everyone that's watching or listening, stay with it, because we're not different than Rupert or Francis or Ramana Maharshi or Jesus.
Exactly. We're the same. It's like we each got human conditioning. We got a name, Patty and Bill, and then they told us you're this and that, and we believed it. And so we're running off of those beliefs.
Yeah.
We just need to recognize those beliefs and let them go. And then don't operate in our mind body unit anymore. We'll be free of them.
Yeah. So before we turn, or as we turn the page, Rick mentioned something at 12:06. The individual wants personal enlightenment, control, and to believe it will never die, but the individual can never get this. The truth simply can't be acquired or learned. And this is the whole seek and never find, that the seeker has to go away. and it's not a problem. I had this conversation with Rick Archer a couple of weeks ago, that he thinks seeking is a good thing, and seeking is, kind of gives you the flavor. And in that conversation, I said, well, it's not really the seeking needs to go. The seeker that's seeking goes away, but the fun and the joy of even like this book study, this is the one that's just hanging out in the truth. That's no longer a seeker. It's just finding itself that it has this compelling love for truth.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
It's an intuitive knowing rather than an intellectual knowing of trying to figure out things and have concepts and everything like that. Because in the next paragraph at the top of the page 72, he continues, and he's talking about the awareness is prior to and independent of the content of experience and is always available in the background of experience. So in other words, objects are appearing within consciousness. They are made of consciousness. I am is consciousness. Everything is consciousness. So you're one with everything. So it's not a problem. And in the next thing it says, it is the peace that patheth understanding, the peace for which there's no explanation in the content of experience. And out to the side I wrote, the mind cannot know this because the mind is the one that is labeling and dividing everything up. Like we got a hand here, we call this the palm, the thumb, the index, the middle, the ring, and the pinky finger. But it's a hand, it's part of the body, and it's all consciousness. So why the hell are you dividing it all up and labeling it? Just be one with it.
Well, because that's what we learn.
That's what we do. Exactly. That's conditioning. Yes.
Yes.
Exactly. So we need to get out of that habit of dividing,
Yes.
labeling everything, and know that everything is God, is consciousness appearing and expressing. And let's play. Let's have fun together.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, we are. Eve said at 12:11, yes, eventually the content of experience loses its power to veil the peace.
Mhm.
Yes. Thank you.
He says that later on.
And
So
Rana said, let's see, Rana said something. I like Rupert's description that it seems to be agitated, seems to acquire its qualities. We learn to include the concessions. We learn to, and that's a kind of a thing that happens gradually when you're wanting to make sure you preface what you're saying with the concessions so that your understanding is clear, I think, and doesn't lead to the idea that the words get funny at that point.
yes, and I like to be super clear. So sometimes I'll say something and then I'll say, and what I mean by that is that way, because lesson one, everyone puts their own meaning on everything. That way they're not misconstruing what I'm communicating. So I will do that quite a bit.
Yeah. Yeah.
So here continuing in this second paragraph, the second sentence, it says, this understanding cannot be caused. It can only be recognized. It cannot disappear. It can only be ignored. It is the context of the mind, not its content. And I looked up the word context, and what it said is it was events, circumstances, background. And then the content is what is contained in the work. And we're the work because we're the activity of God. We're the movement, we're the activity. And God is the stillness, but there's no separation there. It's one. So I thought that was very fascinating.
Yes.
So
Yes.
a lot of people get stuck or caught up in the content and get veiled and forget that they are everything.
Well, and that's where the recognition, the pausing, it becomes more the forward or the front line of experience.
It's more dominant.
Yeah, right.
Dominant.
At 12:18, Jenny Beal said, "We need to continue to investigate, ask questions, the essence of seeking," talking about the end of seeking, the essence of seeking until we are completely satisfied. If we stop seeking before we are satisfied, we end up with more beliefs. Yes, yes. And the thing that I like about the end of seeking is not the end of that the end of seeking is okay, everybody should be at the end of seeking. It's and just as Jenny pointed out, seeking isn't a bad thing, but it does come to an end. It comes to an end, and it's that end is recognized. It's easily recognized, and the idea that that I have for the end of seeking is that there comes a point when you accept your essential nature. There comes a point where you accept the ideas as in the direct experience that they're seen and known, and that in and of itself is the end of seeking. So it's really pointing out that seeking does come to an end.
Yes, but I also want to point out, because there's some spiritual teachers, not Rupert, but some that are like, renouncing the world, renouncing everything. It's like, no, you want to bring back in the objects of experience, but you just don't let them veil you anymore. Because I'm not going to come here in the world and just sit here and be silent and do nothing. I want to enjoy life and be and play, but I want to explore my infiniteness.
But so Patty, you said you don't let them veil you anymore. Is that true?
Well, I know when thoughts arise, I know it's a thought. Oh, there's a thought arising or a feeling.
But it's not a doing, and
I'm the
don't.
awareness witnessing that arising within this being, this activity named Patty.
So how is don't let
Well,
that veil it? How does that work?
what I mean is I'm not going to get so absorbed in it that I don't forget that it's just an activity I'm doing and it's not who I am.
So I'm going to suggest that you're not doing anything. Awareness is pervading the experience and remembering and knowing itself.
It appears as a doing,
It does.
activity happening. Again, we're getting into word salad here.
Yeah.
Because most of us would say doing or activity. So I don't want to get tangled up in concepts and words, but I think we both are aware of what we're saying here. It's like it's a unity of consciousness. It's coming from pure being to this activity, from I am to I am Patty, and it's a flow. And Patty's not doing anything. Patty is the activity that is happening.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I can be aware and articulate what's going on in my experience. I can articulate it with words, and the words may or may not land with some people, but that depends on their perception and what they're projecting also.
So let's keep going on page 72.
Okay.
What else do you see above the happiness is the nature of awareness? Do you see anything else above there that you want to talk about?
I had highlighted that awareness is not changed by the content of experience, but the content of experience is progressively changed by the piece of awareness. And this is where we do come into that love and understanding of the oneness, the unity with pure being and with all other living beings and things. And it was like our state of being is a reflection of our awareness and our love and understanding of who and what we are and how life works.
Yeah.
We're less reactive and more loving.
Yes. Yeah. I highlighted that last sentence or the sentence above that. As a result, the background of peace begins to percolate into the foreground of experience, which is in turn gradually and progressively permeated by it. And this is where the understanding, and this is kind of what I was getting to, that awareness actually is permeating gradually and progressively, resolving anything that rises, anything that would seemingly veil the truth. You don't do anything. It does everything.
It's self-correcting. It's like unconditional love will correct everywhere your mind-body unit is still being conditionally loving, because you are unconditional love. And so it's correcting all the conditions, which would be in beliefs.
Yeah. So I would just I put good news. That's really good news that we don't have to do anything.
We're not the doer anyway.
Right. In fact, we can't do anything.
We can't. We just think we do because we're veiling ourselves. We think because we're conditioned.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's funny.
Amy Habel said, as long as there are impressions of objects in the mind, so long the inquiry, who am I, is required. Ramana Maharshi. Yeah.
Yes.
Good point. Thank you. Thank you, Amy.
Because you have separation, subject object, and when that's collapsed, that goes away. And you don't have that.
Yeah. And then at 1224, Jenny Beal said, all thoughts come from the universe, not from a separate self. This applies to the thought, I am not doing anything. It just happens. Yes.
The flow. We're in the collective consciousness, and we're, it's all flowing in these conduits, and it's really wild how it all works. It's fascinating.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's go below the line. Happiness is the nature of awareness.
Yes, and I had highlighted in the second paragraph, the second sentence, it is utterly, intimately one with experience, open without resistance to it, and yet at the same time needs nothing from it. It does not need to be fulfilled or completed by experience. Awareness lacks or wants for nothing, because we are everything. Consciousness, the awareness of being, is everything, because there's no experience without awareness. So we already are whole and complete. We are it all. And we're just experiencing through these mind-body units, whatever wants to be experienced.
Yeah.
It's just happening.
And I put, God doesn't need us to complete itself. Or, what God is, is that pure presence.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Pure being before. It's like we're all God in disguise, because there's only one, and it wants to express the infinite love that it is, and so it has no other to express that to. And so that's why we were created as the light, to make all these images, appearances of seemingly separate people.
Yeah.
There's no separation anywhere.
Yeah. At 1218, Landon had a statement and a question. If the mind doesn't understand the peace that passes understanding, what name do you give to the part of ourselves that experiences it? Just knowing? Language can be an obstacle.
Yes, language can be an obstacle.
Yeah.
So is he asking what part of the mind? Because the finite mind cannot understand the infinite, because it's part of it, and it's being deliberately limited to play our characters here. So it's not going to get it.
Yeah. It's the limited finite mind is what Rupert's talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah. So at the bottom of 72, the last paragraph, I underlined, happiness is not a temporary state of mind, or even an emotion in the ordinary sense of the word. So that's a really important distinction. I was in the retreat, and some of you were in the retreat over the weekend with Rupert, and this came up. Questions come up, and we miss the definition of happiness. We think that a feeling of happiness is what happiness is, or the experience of happiness is what happiness is. And I think we learn and then understand that the definition of happiness is that peace that passes understanding.
Yes.
And it takes a gradual, I think it takes first understanding, and then the experience comes in as a visceral experience from the people that I've talked to, and my own direct experience is that it's a gradual thing that sort of reveals itself.
Yeah. Yeah, it can't be a state of mind, because a state is a bundle of thoughts and feelings and perceptions. And it's prior to that. It's our nature.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's what it says. It's an ever-present background of all changing states and emotions. And we're the activity, the mind body, and that's the states and the emotions. But prior to that is I am, and that's who we are. We're the changeless reality. Yeah. I thought it was really interesting too, continuing on in that sentence. As such, we cannot know happiness as an objective experience, because that's the perceiver via the mind, and the mind can't know happiness. We can only be it.
But that's a common kind of a sticking point for students, for questioners that are in the retreats. I've noticed that they're looking for happiness as a feeling.
Yes.
As an object of experience.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And pure being is unconditional love. Because remember, it goes existence, consciousness, bliss. The existence is isness, unconditional love, that moved into I am, being, so that love could come into being. And then it does that through the forms.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah,
unconditional love to I am.
Sounds
to
good.
Patty, or I am Bill. Yeah. So it says, likewise, we cannot be unhappy because it's not our nature. We can only know it. So it's only when we're in the dream character mode here that we can know unhappy, because it's a freaking state of mind. It's not true essence, nature, because that knows it's all that is, and it can't be affected by any experience or activity. So it's naturally happy and at peace.
So I like this next on this next page on 73. We talked about this before opening up the room, Patty. I love how Rupert brings his own experience into this book. Mm-hmm. And one of the things, I had a conversation with Rupert before we went live last week, and I told him how much we love this newest book is my favorite. And if you've listened to any of his podcasts recently, you'll hear that it's his favorite. It's the one he used to point everyone to, The Nature of Consciousness. Now he's pointing them to this one, You Are the Happiness You Seek, because of the ease of it, but also the thing I love about this writing is he gets very intimate in his own experiences of awakening.
Yes, we finally get a glimpse into Rupert's life a little bit. It's not just, his brilliant pointings to the truth. Because I really did appreciate this, where he said, it's like the third paragraph down, I recalled the innumerable attempts I had made in my life to secure happiness through objects, substances, activities, states of mind, and relationships. And now, in the depths of my being, a quiet joy was revealing itself effortlessly. And again, unconditional love is self-correcting. We're not doing anything. It is automatically correcting everywhere that we're being conditionally loving, because we were taught to be conditionally loving, because we were taught we were separate, but we're not.
Yes. Yeah. And even up before that, he says, when he says, well remember the first time it became obvious that happiness is the very nature of my being. There was nothing extraordinary about it, and it was not preceded by any particular experience. It just dawned on me. And this is a I think this is what happens for each one of us. It's a dawning on us. And he says, he follows by one moment it was not clear, and the next moment it was.
Exactly. Yeah.
Just there it is.
Yeah. You get out of the thinking mind and you just contemplate and you just rest in that pure presence, and it self-corrects.
Yeah. And if you're listening or watching and you're not having that experience, I want to say to you, be gentle on yourself and stay with the reading, stay with the pointing, and be aware of the chitty chatter mind or frustration or any of those things, and just be gentle on yourself. Stay with it. Stay with it. Stay with the teaching. It will come.
Yes, you are completely innocent. You just got conditioned. That's it. We all did. And so
Yeah.
you are innocent in that. And it's just the carnal mind. And you want to, it'll automatically correct to the Christ mind that knows the oneness.
So, Patty, let's move down. Unless you have something else, let's move down to, am I ready to know myself?
Oh, I love this. I thought it was so cute that this person asked this, because after, my experience is so overwhelming much of the time that I sometimes wonder whether I can ever recognize the presence of awareness. And I wrote, you cannot not be aware. Your light is just veiled or unveiled. That's it. Your light is just shining forth as the foreground now, as pure unconditional love, or it's still veiled with conditionings, beliefs that God accepted as true.
Well, the thing that I'm noticing in that question is that this is like very, very, very common.
Oh, yes.
I saw it yesterday. I saw somebody say, I guess I'm not ready yet.
And that's the separate self talking. And there's no
Right.
separate self. So that
Right.
person is innocent, and they're just caught up in the objective experience.
Yeah. And he really clears that up in that sentence when he that starts at the bottom of 73, when he says, it is the very awareness with which you are currently aware of these words that has the capacity to soften the focus of its attention from the content of your experience, come back to itself, and recognize its innate peace.
Yeah.
That thing just, it relaxes and resolves.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I love that. It's like how he talked about John Smith playing King Lear. You just relax after your performance, and you're John Smith. You're God, you're pure being, and you just played this role. You just had this activity. Now you can go back to knowing you're God, you're everything. You're pure being. I like to use Superman and Clark Kent. Is Clark Kent ever disturbed by anything that happens? It's like, no, because he knows Clark Kent is his made up identity. It's the character he's playing. He knows he's Superman. There's no separation there.
Amy Habel at 1236 said, truth need not self-correct. It is always true. Its very truth is why all of us will eventually come to know it is what we are. Yeah. Yeah. So, truth doesn't self-correct. Truth just is.
Yes.
And this seeming separate identity, it is the self-resolving. It just, I feel that it sort of it absorbs back into the nothingness from which it comes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the finite mind will be dissolved, and then you're just in flow, and it's all one. But yeah, we have to concede that our language is dualistic, and sometimes the words we use out of habit, makes it appear like we're saying something different or making a paradox, but truth just is, and we are that. And we're experiencing an illusion of truth because truth is all that is. And to appear as a diversity and a multiplicity, we have to limit all that is to appear as this. And so this is an illusion because it's limited to this expression, when in truth, it's the whole thing. So
that's it. So Andrew has a question that Jenny answered. Thank you, Jenny, and thank you, Andrew. Question at 1237 is, how can we be happiness if we are seeking, resisting, or desiring other things? Can we stop desiring other things, seeking, resisting? And Jenny answered, Andrew, there's no separate person that chooses our desires. They just happen. The fact that you have come to this teaching indicates that looking for happiness in objects is losing its stranglehold. Gradually, our desires come back to their source in awareness as a result of our contact with the teaching. And this is, this is what Rupert was saying a few minutes ago when he said that gradually this just resolves. Gradually, the content of experience is absorbed or resolved into the understanding.
Yeah, because it's the separate self, the seeming separate self, that is the one that's seeking and desiring and all of that. But once that finite mind that is the separate self that makes it appear the way it is appearing, once that dissolves, peace.
Yeah. Patty, Linda Patton loves the Superman reference.
It came to me because I wanted to share this teaching with my nephews. They're 21, 24, and they got that because there is no separation between Superman and Clark Kent. They're one, and they got that, and then Superman. Clark Kent is not defending his identity, that in my defenselessness, my safety lies. Who cares if someone's projecting on his made up identity, right? Who cares? He knows he's Superman. He knows he's God. So it's no big deal if someone projects on him.
Right. And moving on, there's a question, is it possible that I'm just not ready? And and I like what Rupert, how he answers this. First, he says, this is a way of understanding, not a path of effort. In fact, that's the problem, is the path of effort is never ending. It's seek and never find.
It perpetuates the sense of a separate self.
Yeah.
The sense, it's a sense, a belief in separation.
Yeah. These are new ideas that are only coming out in the last few years.
Exactly. And they're brilliant.
Yeah.
Right after that question, I wrote, you're already being God. You're just conscious, the Christ, or unconscious, the ego.
Yeah.
And so that finite mind gets self-corrected when you rest in the pure awareness that you already are.
Yeah.
It dissolves.
And he gives two formulas for this recognition. He says first this is a way of recognition and expression, and then he says in expression it's a celebration of knowing the self, and then he says, and yet changes do take place in our lives as an inevitable consequence of this understanding. So the bodysuit experience, the personal self experience, it begins to change as a result of this understanding. And here's where he says, all that's necessary is to cease being exclusively fascinated by or lost in the content of experience and to return to ourself. Strictly speaking, we do not even need to return to ourself. So he cleared up the concession part. When we get undressed at night, we do not return to our naked body. It is simply revealed. Our naked body was there all along underneath our clothes. And then under that, he says, he has another one statement that says, all that is necessary, again, likewise, inherently peaceful and unconditionally fulfilled being is present behind and in the midst of all experience. All that is necessary. And this is an important, really, this is it right here. All that is necessary is to relax the focus of our attention from the content of experience or from the object of experience, and our being will shine by itself. It is, as such, a relaxation of effort, not a new effort. So we're relaxing the effort.
Exactly. Because when we relax the effort, because the person is the activity of God. So when we relax the effort, the activity, we sink back into pure peace, the true being, I am. And then when we need to be I am Patty, we go do some activity. But other than that, we can rest in I am and know that. And when we rest in that, then that becomes more and more dominant. And when we do activity, it is from unconditional love, not from some conditioned belief.
Yeah. So anyone that has any comments or questions, you want to raise your hand, feel free to do that. At 1240, Nancy Clavins. Hi, Nancy. One of the things Rupert said during the retreat is that falling into old habits is natural. They have been practiced for decades, for millennia. They have been practiced for decades. The separate self fights with vengeance as it begins to feel its demise. Just see it's part of the cycle. Don't let it engage you. Yeah. And be gentle on yourself. Be totally gentle. Let this happen without judging yourself or being frustrated or thinking I'm not getting it, or I'm not fast enough, or how come, he has it or she has it and I'm not there. I heard somebody in a retreat with Rupert say I'm not where you are yet. and he says, well, let me tell you where I am. I'm hot, I'm hungry, there's a mosquito bite on my ankle that I want to scratch.
Exactly.
So I thought that was pretty funny.
Yeah, there's no separation between divinity and humanity. They're one. And what helped me a lot was to identify as a spiritual being and not the human being. The form is human and the activity is divine, though. It's like God is experiencing life or having an adventure of a lifetime through this body conduit with the name tag Patty.
Right. Yeah. Thank you, God.
Yes. Thank God for being the way you're being through me. Yay.
Right. That's right. And right. Yeah.
And it's not, I would say that person that asked that question, because you're right, there's decades. And I even caught myself yesterday, and then 10 minutes later, I was laughing my butt off because I realized what had happened. I got absorbed in something and I was like, oh my God, it was so funny. But I just laughed about it. I relaxed and I received the answer, and then I just laughed.
Right.
It's amazing. It really is when you can relax. Because when you're all content, you're in the activity, you're in it. You're in the objective experience and you can't see. But when you relax, now you can witness what your character's doing and be okay.
Yeah. Well, we have some brilliant minds in this group, and people that really have been on this path for a long time, offering great suggestions in the chat for anyone that is looking for or has a question. And Rick just posted something. Absolutely nothing is wrong. Just be relaxed, non-judgmental, and notice. It's nothing special, yet it is. It's the thing. And Sylvia has her hand up. Sylvia, would you like to unmute your mic, please, and come on screen?
Yeah, I have a question. So,
Do you have a video?
I'm
What
sorry.
do you look like? Oh, as long as you have your clothes on, of course. There
No,
you are.
so is awareness experiencing murder and ugliness?
Well, awareness doesn't, I mean, awareness, murder and ugliness and all of those things, they arise out of awareness. Awareness is aware of those activities. It's not, and actually, if you take it down to its ultimate truth, those things come from awareness, out of awareness. They arise within awareness. So that's what God is. It's murder, all of those things, those plays of the bodysuit, good, bad, right, wrong, everything is arising out of God, out of awareness.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Difference is there's unconscious movements, which Course in Miracles labels ego, and then there's conscious movements, which is Christ consciousness, but it's all one consciousness in a polarity in the relative realm. Fell into like, well, awareness is just playing with itself, but it's in a multiplicity and a diversity. So there's going to be multiplicity and diversity. And it's just you recognizing, oh, I'm not any of that object of experience. I'm pure being prior to all that, and you're not affected by that. So don't get involved with it. Just let it be.
So the thing is, Sylvia, that's a great question, and it's a common question. And Jenny answers it through Francis. Francis describes activities such as murder, etc., as awareness playing the game of ignorance.
And ignorance is unconsciousness, which is the not self of the ego mind. In other words, that person is trapped in the veiled. That person is veiled.
So the idea, Sylvia, is that you come to a place where those things, they still they still bother you, but there's a you that sees it, that's untouched by it. So it's really to give distinction to the you that's untouched by the experience, and stay there, and then your compassion will still occur. Your love for truth, your love for people will still happen, but it'll be coming from a different place, so an understanding heart that knows the truth of I am is all things. And so you won't be you won't be pulled out of the peace, the essential nature of your true self, so fully that you lose yourself in the experience of a murder or conflict or ugliness.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And then one more thing, William Price says, we don't blame the lion for eating the antelope. Predators maintain the balance. Yeah, that's true, William. And then Jenny says, no, there's no person, there's no ego, there's no unconsciousness.
Yeah, that's the mind labeling it, but it's a concession to the mind to try to understand.
Yeah. Thank you for clearing that up. Yeah, well, we have to stay, we want to stay clear in the teaching, because the words of pointing, they unravel the old mindset of those ideas. So in some ways, it is helpful to bring back the meaning of the concession.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because people who are so veiled in the objective experience, they need these types of explanations to relax, because they're so in the, So then they can
Right.
relax and soothe that. But again, it's nothing. It's all God. It's all the I am. So
Yeah. Yeah. So where else, let's look at page 75. We have about 20 minutes left. And I think we have enough time to finish the chapter, right?
yes, there's only like a page left.
One and a quarter pages.
Yeah.
What do you see on 75 that stands out?
Well, I love that there was no special qualifications, abilities, or circumstances are required to recognize the nature of awareness. And he brings up Buddha and Jesus and Ramana Maharshi. None of them had privileged access to the fact of being aware or awareness itself, because we all are already that. It's just either veiled
Yes.
or unveiled. They
Yeah.
were ordinary people like each of us who simply had a deep desire to know the nature of their being. So it's like they rested in the awareness, they contemplated the nature of reality and who am I, and then it dawned on them.
Yeah. Yeah. Which in some way, I mean, you're here, I'm here because it's been a pull for me most of my adult life to understand what truth is and who God is. And did Jesus really do what he said they did? That they said he did? Did he really do the things they said? And that has a kind of, and are miracles true? I mean, all of those kinds of things. And to bring it to something that is relatable to everyone on the planet, that's an important distinction.
Yes.
And I also like in that first paragraph, I like the use of a woman sage, Ananda Maya. I would like to know more women sages' names for my own vocabulary, because I think women got left out, and they're the bright ones in all of the centuries past, and they got the short end of the stick, I feel. When you go into study groups or churches or even here, how many are women? It's a minority of men that have that frequency of understanding, I think. And I'm not trying to give you the guys a short end of the stick, but there's too many male, books and all of these male, Buddha, Meister Eckhart, Ramana, Jesus. All so anyway, I liked the female stuff. So what else do you see here on 75?
Let's see. I had highlighted, will I know when it happens? This recognition may take place in contemplative moments between thoughts and activities or during them. And that's how it happened for me. Is I'm always been a very contemplative person. And I would just be still and ask, and then I would receive the answers, from that intuitive knowing, that deeper pure being within. And that's how I received the answers. And that's what the truth points to, is pure being, because God is all knowing. And that's your true being. So go within to get the answer. Don't go outside yourself.
He gives a good description of his own experience in this, when he says that this recognition may take place in contemplative moments between thoughts and activities or during them, just as an actress may recognize that she is not defined by or limited to the part she plays in between performances or during a performance. We may not even notice that a specific recognition has taken place. We simply notice that the almost constant activity of negotiating experience for the purpose of seeking happiness has diminished, and in its place, a causeless peace has arisen. Either way, our inherently peaceful and unconditionally fulfilled nature of awareness does not need to be liberated from the content of experience. Its nature is already such. If you were in the retreat last weekend, you'll remember that Rupert related this sort of this dawning or this recognition to having a headache. He said, you have a headache in the morning, and in the afternoon, you don't suddenly, the headache is gone, but you suddenly realize, oh, I don't have a headache anymore. So it's like it leaves. And it happens in reverse. The dawning of awareness happens in reverse of that kind of a metaphor. All of a sudden you realize, oh, I don't do that anymore. I don't react to that anymore. And you become, because you're gradually becoming a different person.
Yeah. Well, God is an invisible spirit. And I always say, Pat, this is my Patty costume. Because I'm an invisible spirit, you can't see me unless I put a costume on. And so Patty's my costume that I wear to be in this world, to be in the divine play. Because we're all here to play different roles. It's really fun when you don't have that separation anymore between subject and object. So there's no separation, and you're just, you're a soul playing a role, and the soul is a light, SOL, the light. So we're the light of the world. We're the light that allows God to be seen, because he's unseen and invisible.
Yeah. Yeah. And he's not a he.
Yeah.
There's a question at 12:58 from Anna Barton. What is the role of purification or tapasya from the yogic tradition? That the truth shines through once you have undergone a certain amount of suffering or something. Whenever I am going through a hard time, I tell myself it's purification and I feel better. Is this problematic? I bet you somebody gave some answers to that. Well, Rick did. Having a very frustrated or confused mind is not a bad thing. In fact, it may be a very positive sign. It may be an indication that this understanding has nothing to do with mental content. And then Jenny said, Anna, purification happens naturally once we have an understanding of our true nature. And I think that last part, once we have an understanding of our true nature, is the key. The mistake would be to think there is a person to be purified. What gets purified is just patterns of thinking and behaving. And I would say that, there's a line in the Course that says that awakening is everyone's birthright, but purification is necessary first. And I think that gets in the way of people's awakening. I actually think that statement gets in the way of people having an awakening experience, because they think that purification needs to happen first before God will take the last step and I'll have an awakening experience. And I think it keeps people stuck. So I really think that the understanding that Jenny is pointing to here, that purification happens naturally once we have an understanding of our true nature, and because it's not a doing, it's a being, and it just happens of its own.
Yes, all doing and having stem from being. So if you know that you are the divine spiritual being called I am, and then all this doing and being happens automatically, then it's not a problem. And you don't judge anything, you're innocent. There's not even a you, it's just God at that point. You know what I mean? But yeah, I do. I agree with you, Bill, that the Course is a progressive path. And because you're focused on what's called the ego or the unconsciousness, you're expanding it and making it bigger and acting like there's a person that has to do something to get to God. You already are one with God, though. There's no separation. And so I had to let the Course go, because I'm in a study group on Tuesday nights for a satsang, because it's nice to have people come together to express the true understanding. But I like the direct path much better.
Well, if you take that word purification, let's just change that word to
Understanding.
understanding. Let's just change that word to understanding, because purification is a term that's a doing, and understanding is just happens. It happens naturally as awakening or as understanding occurs, and this idea of of just the word, I think gets us off. It gets us off track. It's and if you go back to what Jenny said earlier, that self-inquiry or asking questions is part and parcel to that. Asking questions is a sort of a purification, only it's a cleaner use of the words, I think, because what it's doing is the answering of a question that causes the mind to relax and accept the truth, because only the truth is true. It relaxes the mind's fixed location or fixed belief or fixed identity with the question. It relaxes the mind and moves it, seemingly relaxes it from having a position so that the light shines. That's the best I can describe a better understanding for purification.
Yeah, I like what you said, Bill. And just to add to that, because I like what you said about a fixed point, because if I'm fixated on the Patty activity, then I'm in that activity and I can't pause to then see that I'm infinite and just having an expression. It's not a problem. And when you're in the activity, you have to pause and be like, wait a minute, and then see that you're the I am prior to that activity.
Yeah.
And you're infinite, and then you can make another choice or just have something new flow through you. You know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Doer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for that, Patty, and thank you for your comments on the chat, Bill, William, and Jenny, and Rick. Purification may have a progressive role, but in the end, it reinforces a sense of separation, something that needs to be accomplished by a someone, etc. Yeah. Yeah. So we're just cleaning up some of those old paradigm ideas that, and it is in the progressive paths, but it's like, and I had this conversation with Susan the other day. The Course in Miracles on workbook lesson 189, paragraph 7 says, forget this course, forget this world, come with holy empty hands unto your God. Well, Susan said, well, I don't know why they didn't put that workbook lesson at the very last, like the last one. Forget, now that you've got the course, now let's forget everything you just learned, forget this course and forget this world, and come with holy empty hands unto your self-awareness, the self that you are.
Yeah, I got the impression that the course is valuable because so many of us were brought up in religion. I grew up Catholic, and they really emphasize that separation.
Yeah.
You know, so I think the course helps you if you were deeply entrenched in religion. It takes you progressively out of that. And
that was me.
Yeah, me too, Catholic. I mean, I was rocking and rolling. I thought God was separate from me, but I was rocking and rolling because I was a little goody two shoes, pleasing God and all this, and my life was smooth. But I had to get rid of that idea of separation because it's just not the truth.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think the course.
Patty, let's look at the last paragraph on 75. In time, this understanding will have a profound effect on our thoughts and feelings and our subsequent activities and relationships. But this may be subtle and take place over a long period of time, depending on the extent to which our character diverged from it to begin with. Yeah.
Yeah. And that diverged. I put a little arrow and did prodigal son,
Yeah. Yeah, there it is. The prodigal son diverged.
Yes.
And then he says, in fact, the realignment of the way we think, feel, perceive, act, and relate with this new understanding never really comes to an end. Previously, experience eclipsed awareness. Previously, experience eclipsed awareness. Now awareness shines in the midst of experience, and all experience is progressively pervaded by and saturated with it until it is finally outshone by it.
Yes, and I wrote, we're the light, a conduit or instrument for that unconditional love to radiate through this being and just be like Jesus was, and just was perfect love that cast out all fear.
Yes.
And, you know, we are that conduit. So it's unconditional love to pure being of I am to I am Patty. And that is a stream of unity consciousness. That's that vertical at one-ment. So yeah, and it's great that I appreciate the diversity and multiplicity, because how could we even interact and know each other and share the love that we are? So the relativity, this seeming separation, this appearance is necessary. Otherwise, we'd just be an infinite singularity, the infinite field, and we wouldn't have experience. So this was how it was designed to be.
No doubt. There's a question and some answers that followed at 108 from Landon. Patty and Bill, when something upsets you, how do you remember true nature? Or in other words, how do you find your way back to abiding in peace? Does the process become smoother and more organic over time? For me, I noticed this right after I found Rupert, and I was getting ready to, I was going through a divorce experience with Lisa. We were filed for a divorce. I noticed in that experience, I had just met Rupert. In fact, we had this huge blowout in San Francisco during my first retreat with Rupert back at the hotel room. I wasn't staying at the retreat center. Oh my God, we were so close to divorce that you can't believe it. But I remember coming back and just pausing as awareness at my own activity when we would fight or we would have arguments. It was crazy. And I remember pausing as awareness, watching the activity of Bill. And then I would be in conversation with Lisa, and I would say, I'm just noticing what I just said. And I would re-say what I would say, what I just saw I said and did. And she, she's over there surprised that I'm sort of recapping what an asshole I just was. And so that was the beginning of it getting smoother for me, and smoother and smoother. And now, I mean, we never got divorced. We went back and we unfiled the papers to get divorced. We don't have arguments anymore. It's just amazing what happens when the smoothing out part comes in. It really does come in. But for me, it's pausing and being aware of the activity of Bill and the whole situation without judgment is what was the turning point for me. Mm-hmm. So anyway, that's there's no extra charge for that personal insight experience in Bill and Lisa's life, but it's a true story, and everything changed.
That's beautiful. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, it's true. And this stuff does it. This is it.
Yeah, it's really identification, because when I identified as being the spiritual being prior to this physical form, which I expressed through, that made all the difference. And then plus I have just been studying mind stuff. Like when I was a kid, I loved telepathy, ESP. I wanted to know what Jesus knew and do what Jesus did. So my whole incarnation has been about studying the mind and how it works. So my hypnotherapy training was very instrumental in this. People misunderstand what hypnotherapy is. It's just relaxing out of the objective mind into the subjective mind. The subjective mind is I am God, and then the object is the sun, the object, the mind body unit. And when you condense those two and you can witness and see, This is just a projection from the mind. Let me be still and know that I'm pure being, and then that will self-correct. It just
Yes.
does, because the awareness is like you're shining the light of awareness onto that darkness, that belief, and it just dispels it.
Yep.
The light always dispels the darkness.
Yep.
So you are the light of the world. And when you really identify as the light, boom, the darkness goes away. And then you are just walking in this world of seeming duality, but you know it's all one.
Yep. Okay, we've come to the end of our time. Thank you, Patty. Thank you for being our co-host today. And thank you, everyone, for chiming in and being part of this book study community, and with your awesome support for everyone here. And next week, we're going to be looking at Chapter 10, A Belief in Separation. And our co-host is Rose Johnston. And thank you all for being here. Love you all, and we'll see you next week.
Yeah, I'll miss next week. I have an eye doctor appointment, so I'll see you the following week.
We'll miss